my advice to you is to not give in to the depression of this reality, because we can choose another path and another way. We can carve our own path. And yeah, it takes hard work, but that's gonna happen no matter what. You're still gonna have to row down whatever path you choose, but you at least have the right to choose, and remember that. Good morning. I don't know what day it is, o'clock, and I'm gonna be telling you a little story time of my kayaking trip and the messages and the lessons that I learned. Every time I go to the river, it's a spiritual journey, and it's like returning home to like my truest essence, my wildest nature, and it's always so refreshing and grounding. It's a little bit hard to come back from the river. It's just it's like an ecosystem in a way of life that you adapt, on the hours that you're there, and then, your float trip ends, and then you're just like, I don't know, it's like similar rules apply in real life, but it's like, honestly, sometimes I'd rather just float down the river for the rest of my life. It's so dramatic, but like, if you've been on a river trip, you know what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna be telling you a little story time and some lessons I got from it. And the river is a metaphor for life, and it's something that I live by even when I'm not in that setting. And also, when you go on vacation, it sometimes feels like you're losing something when you leave, but actually you're gaining something, and it's just the spark for something bigger in your life. And yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to be pulling some cards to help me structure this little chat. So bear with me. I'm going to pull some cards. Okay. I've got the snake, which is definitely inspired by the river. I've got the spirit, the snake spirit. Alright. So, I'm trying to find a way to tell you this without getting myself exposed, but I usually like to eat certain plants during my river trip, and it makes it more of a journey. And it's definitely an experience, let's just say that. So I pulled some cards when I first hit the river, and I like to kayak, so I was on my kayak, and I pulled some cards, and I got the Knight's Truth and the Hunter's Pleasure. And to me, it meant a lot of things. The Knight's Truth and the Hunter's Pleasure, like my personal truth, but also the pleasure of the experience and the process. And like finding the resolutions, finding the lessons and the themes, but also literally like the hunter's pleasure, as in like hunting for the truth, and that also being the reward. So I pulled those cards, and then went on my trip journey And the water, the river, every time you have to submerge yourself, you have to baptize yourself, you have to cleanse and initiate yourself in the cold water. That's the only way, in my opinion, is just to submerge yourself in the mother energy of the river, the feminine, watery, ever-changing, ever-flowing vessel. And you have to face the fears of snakes and fish and whatever is in this river, and to be bold enough to become part of the wild by submerging yourself in this wild river. It always gives me a certain high because it almost feels, I don't want to say wrong, but it almost feels like too good to be true. It almost feels like there's something lurking around the corner, or there's a snake or something, and you just have to jump in and like face that fear of the unknown. And I think that whole initiation goes on, the whole float, but you become more and more ingrained with the wild cycles. If you have to pee, you fucking pee in the river, you eat, you shit, whatever the fuck, whatever you need to do, you have to do in the wild. And you feel gross, but then you get in the water, you cleanse yourself, you get hot, you get cold, you're wild, you're calm, you're loud, you're quiet. There's animals, there's nothing, there's people, there's no people. It's just the natural order of life, and you go back to the timelessness of your ancestors and them kayaking down the river, and you have to play by the rules of the river, even if the rules are that there are none. So after I took these certain plants, it started to rain, and it was raining on and off the whole trip, but it started to rain, and you could feel the change of the trees. The trees were like speaking. They knew that the rain was coming. And this group of people, they were passing us, and they had like fireworks and shit, and like they were, typical rednecks. They pass us, and we didn't really think anything about it, and then it started to rain, so we just kind of paddled on into this little cove area. So we paddled, there's 4 of us, we paddled into this cove area. There wasn't really a bank, but we just kind of put our kayaks back into this like area to wait out the rain. And this big ass redneck group passes us, and this guy, he was like about 40 to 50, scary looking redneck guy, right? Comes up, paddles close to us. It's like, doesn't he? I don't even remember what he said, but he was basically asking us like, what's up? And you could see the dead in his eyes, like he was on something fucked up. And my friend go like, rocking and rolling, yeah. And he kind of got like, I don't know, I think he was curious about our energy because we were not his typical river dweller. So he passes by us with his group, and then we see him rowing upstream, and we're like, what the fuck? I just look at him and I'm like, oh fuck, there's gonna be a problem. So this big ass redneck group passes by. Mind you, he has a fucking family, right? Like a couple minutes passed by, and you could tell he had rowed up a lot of the river. So his group was long gone. This motherfucker comes floating down the river. And my immediate instinct is like, because I'm on these plants, right? And I'm just like, when you're on certain plants, it feels like nothing bad can happen because you're part of the river and nature got you. But then when other people are involved, when other fucking crazy fuckers are involved, that's when you're like, oh shit, like I actually need to be on my fucking game, right? So these plants are coming up, right? They're coming up. I'm feeling it. And I get out my new knife that I bought for the trip. It's sharp as fuck. Get it out. And I start stabbing like the rocks by my kayak, because I was still in my kayak at this point. I start stabbing it, and you could hear the knife sound in the rocks. And this motherfucker comes floating around the bend. We can see him. He's like 3 feet, 4 feet away from us. First thing this motherfucker sees is my fucking knife stabbing into these rocks. And my fucking sister goes, keep on floating. And this motherfucker goes, why? And you can see in his fucking eyes, he was not a good fucking person. He was on some bad shit. He was not up to any good. And his group is long gone, and we are alone. There is nobody else around. And it's just us four and this crazy grown-ass man on fucking crack. And that's it, you know? You kind of face reality, and you're like, oh, fuck. So he starts giving us trouble. And I like start shaking. I'm like, oh fuck, like I need to be prepared to like actually end this person's life. Because if you're in a situation like that and you have a weapon, like as a woman, you have to be prepared to shed blood. Like maybe this is gonna get banned from this platform for saying that, but as a woman, I'm literally not bullshitting you. You have to be prepared to protect yourself when you have a weapon. And that shit's scary, yes, but also sometimes it's necessary. But it is the last resort, obviously. So I have this weapon, and I'm like, fuck, like this motherfucker kept trying to talk to us, saying some fucked up shit to us. A typical bullshit man shit, you know, if you can fill in the blanks, what he was fucking saying to us, some fucking evil shit. And I basically am just like, dude, we're on vacation. I was like, you have your vacation, we'll have ours, get the fuck on. I was like, have a good day, have a fucking good day, keep floating, keep going on, have a good day. He wasn't getting the fuck memo. And I started raising my fucking voice at him, and we all, started saying shit, but I was like, my mantra was like, have a good day. Have a good day. Because this, you have a choice. Either have a good day or have your last fucking day. Because out of the four of us, you're gonna fucking not make it. So he eventually floats on and says some shit about, oh, if I was younger, you'd be fucked up. And I was like, if you were younger, if you were fucking younger, I don't think your kids would have a dad. Because I don't think fucking with people on the river, on some fucking plants, not a good decision. So obviously very triggering, especially when you're there to have a good time. And I just remember after that I was just shaking with my knife in my hand, just literally talking myself down from the energy that I had to talk myself up for. And then it started raining like hell. And honestly, the only thing to do was to fucking get in the river and like cleanse yourself and like realize that nature, like the river had our back. He was just floating down the river. He got, so far along that he couldn't come back. And it was fucking scary. It was scary. And it was also very enlightening. And it made me feel wild and fucking crazy. And it just made me feel animalistic. Let's just say that. And I'm surprised we had a good time after that. Because I was the only... After that, really nothing can faze you. We had to face like probably the worst possibility of that trip. And, we fought that demon. And then after that, it was clear skies, It was fucking a good time. We got in the river. We floated. We became like the earth. We became the water. We became the silk, streams. We found a little cove all to ourselves and just waited out all of the people because we were a little bit traumatized after that. But we found like a little side stream and we like put our kayaks through it, and low-key we did not know where the stream went and we decided to go down it. Thank God it led to the actual same river that we were on, but we could have got lost as fuck. But we were like alone and safe and like reconnecting to our energies and, coming up. And, we actually had a good time after that. But I remember kind of in the middle of this energy, I started to get like, I don't want to say sad, but I started to get like upset because I was like, how am I going to come back from this trip? How am I going to come back from this experience? Like every time I'm there, I feel like an animal. I feel like I shed everything and I'm nothing else except for this wild creature on the water that is part of this ecosystem of animals and rain and shine and whatever the fuck. And I told myself, I was like, you are the trip. You are the journey. You are the art. You are experiencing this. This is the feelings that you feel are your reaction to this. The energies that you feel is the alchemy between you and nature and the river and the wild and the beauty and the creation and the water and the divine feminine and the wild woman. You are the wild woman. It's like the trip never ends. The river never ends. You are the river. You are the snake. You are the ever-flowing path that leads to the sea. Your life isn't over. And there are things that you don't have to take plants for to feel and experience. And you are all things. And you are every aspect of your life. You are just experiencing it one day at a time. And just because you have a good day doesn't mean you're not going to have another good day. And just because you're wild one day doesn't mean you'll never be wild again. And your divinity and your experience never leaves you. I think when you start putting yourself in the magic, you start seeing it as an external thing, as something that is outside of you. That's when you start getting depressed, and that's when you start like getting stir crazy and wanting to run and wanting to leave society and all of that. And you have to realize that you are the trip, you are the magic, you are the art, and you get to experience yourself every day. You get to be with yourself every day. You get to ask yourself the questions. You get to journal, draw, create, dance, live, breathe, experience. There's a sunset every day. There's a sunrise every day. You get to drink water, you get to eat, you get to have the comforts of life, even if they are mundane and small. And that never leaves you. And you always can come back to the river. But the river is inside of you. And it's more than just a place, it's a metaphor for life. It's always changing, it's always flowing, and you cannot ever go back. You just have to keep going forward. And you're gonna meet some fucking scary creatures on the way, and it doesn't have to be scary, it just makes you feel more alive and wild. And you have to know that, there are harsh realities in life, and you just have to be prepared, and you have to protect yourself, and you have to be wild, and you have to match its energy, but you also have to give grace, and you have to choose peace and love over death. But when death comes, you have to accept it and move on. But life is always first, even if it is a scary motherfucker saying evil things to you on the river. The last thing you want to do is create more evil. And that was why my mantra was have a good day. Don't ruin my fucking day. Come on now. You're scary, but also I'm trying to have a good fucking time. Fuck you. So you're gonna have to have that mentality about life, and you have to protect your vibe, you have to protect your energy, you have to protect your day. And it's okay to react and to get triggered and to get emotional and to shut it off and feel it in in its rawest form. But you have to remember that you are the constant, you are the river, and just because it's never the same at one point doesn't mean that there's not one thing in common. The water is always flowing, and it's connected in a way, even though it's all different. And that's how life is. But you are the river, and you don't know what's in store for you down the path, and you just know that you're connected to it all, and you can change course, and you can choose the more adventurous routes, and you can take your time, and you don't have to rush it, but you don't have to stay still, and you're protected by nature and the wild and yourself, because you are all connected by life and death and the cycles. And you don't have to be afraid of the mundane sweeping you up, because there's always a part of you that is wild. There's always a part of you that is from the earth. And that part of you is always going to try to get out in some way or another. And when it comes up, you have to answer the call. And it's okay if it takes a little while. And I guess the main takeaway is that you are the art. You are the masterpiece. You are the energy of it all. You are the alchemy. You are the reaction. You are the observer. You are the night. You are the hunter. You are all of it. And don't take the magic out of your life and put it on something external when you are the full thing. And if that makes sense, then that makes sense. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. You kind of just have to take what resonates. And if you don't understand, then get yourself out in nature, and you will. And we weren't meant to live in this hyper urban, white-walled, 24-hour cycle. We weren't meant to know what time it is all the time. We were just supposed to see the sun. We weren't meant to fucking trade our fucking souls in just to stay alive and have a roof over our head. And if you're depressed because you're in that reality, then start scheming and planning on ways to get out and ways to fucking find your peace and ways to get down there every once in a while. And it's okay to lose it. It's okay to get it back. And if I'm not making any sense, then that's all right. So my advice to you is to not give in to the depression of this reality, because we can choose another path and another way. We can carve our own path. And it takes hard work, but that's gonna happen no matter what. You're still gonna have to row down whatever path you choose, but you at least have the right to choose. And remember that. And stop making choices based on what people think about you, because they're not going to be the ones living your life. You are. And it's okay to dream, and it's okay to want things, and it's okay to like things. It's okay to have hopes. And don't stop yourself from hoping or dreaming just because your hopes, you could be let down. I think being vulnerable enough to dream and ask and pray and beg for things. Sorry, my dog's like sleeping. He's dreaming. But be vulnerable and don't be too prideful to have a dream, Yes, it might, your hopes might get crushed, but you can keep getting back up on your feet and trying again. And that's all I gotta say about that.